No te ha durado ni un día, tío.
I mean, I do, but it's been a while since I've done a recommendation for my mom, and she's been trying to get me to watch this movie for a few years now. Vivian, that's not something I'm concerned with right now. I kind of just want to watch a movie my mom likes. Vivian, that is so extremely rude. Did you see that I got a new coffee table today? Yeah, I did. It's a really nice one too. We should go check it out. Together.
It's a Friday once again.
Hello, my fellow freaks, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you've all had a great week. This coming weekend is Mother's Day, and I do know that there are quite a few horror-related movies about mothers out there, but I didn't really want to do one of those. Instead, I wanted to get a movie recommendation from my own mother, the mommy dearest to my Christina darling. And while my mom does not have the exact same taste in movies as I do. You know, she doesn't love the stuff that I watch. In fact, I think she hates all of my favorite movies. She is still a pretty big fan of the horror genre, and she especially really loves psychological horror. And like my dad, my mom does usually text me every now and then with a random movie recommendation, but there is one that has come up over and over and over again, which is this week's film, The Coffee Table, from 2022 and directed by Key Casas. My mom has recommended that I watch The Coffee Table like a countless number of times. So when I asked her for a movie recommendation for Mother's Day weekend, she was immediately like, please finally watch The Coffee Table. So here we are. I do remember when this film came out and the absolute chokehold that it had on society. At least it felt like it had one. And hopefully enough time has passed that I can sit here and give you my honest opinion about it without a bunch of people jumping down my throat for it. And listen, my mom recommended this to me knowing that I could potentially not like it. Especially because me and her have somewhat different tastes of film. She recognized like, hey, I watched this, it caught me completely off guard. She was one of the people who 100% knew not a single thing about this movie. I think she just recognized that the title had been buzzing around, and I feel like I don't know. She watched it not knowing a single thing about it. And so I think that is a big reason why she is so adamant about me watching it. But she did recognize that I may not feel the same way as her. Especially because I did have like one teeny tiny spoiler like when it first came out. I did hear the scene where the main spoiler happens, but that was the only thing that I had heard of the movie at all. I don't know what actually happened in that scene at that time. I just knew the noise. And I also thought that scene was going to be at the very end, not at the very beginning. So she wasn't sure how I would react to it, but she was very curious to hear my opinion. So here we are, fashionably late to the party as always. Let's talk about The Coffee Table. But first, if you are new here, hi, my name is STARGUTZZZ. Any kind of loud noises or running or crashing that you may hear happening in the background, those are my cats. Also, my movie reviews tend to be more of a discussion of elements that I find to be good or bad about a piece, rather than giving you this full play-by-play of every single little thing that happens. So in other words, I try to refrain from spoilers as much as possible, but they will arise as they pertain to the discussion that I'd like to have with the film. It's gonna be really hard to discuss this film without giving a somewhat slight spoiler of what happens, because that spoiler happened so early on. It's gonna make talking about the film as a whole very difficult, so if you're somebody who always wanted to go into The Coffee Table 100% blind, maybe skip this review, because I will unfortunately have to explain one detail spoiler that's really gonna be hard to like work around, especially with some of the things that I want to discuss. I'm not going to go into great detail of how it happens, but it's gonna be difficult to avoid the fact that it happens. If you would like to watch this review and remain spoiler free and would like to watch The Coffee Table before or after this review, you can actually do so on our best friend Tubi TV. I am not sponsored by Tubi yet, but I will provide the link to be able to watch it on Tubi in the description below, so it is that much easier for you to go out and watch this picture. Before you do, let me give one content warning, which is related to the spoiler. Do you see how it's so difficult? It's so difficult to tiptoe around this because I feel like for some people, specifically people who are mothers, they need the content warning. I personally know people who are mothers who would not even start this movie knowing what happens. And I feel like me just saying that is enough context clues for you to figure out what the spoiler probably is. So let me attempt to give you the content warning without spoiling it. Basically, if you are a mother and you find yourself to be sensitive towards any sort of violence towards children, maybe sit this movie out. I personally know people who went into watching this movie who are mothers, and once it got to that scene, they had to turn it off because they can't do stuff like that, or they can't handle to see things like that. And I'm not a mother myself, but I do understand the psychology behind that. Like, I get it. That's why I feel like it's important to give a content warning, but it's hard to because the content warning is part of the spoiler. Anyway, let's jump right on into this review. The film follows an older couple named Maria and Jesus as they're experiencing a rocky patch in their relationship after the arrival of their newborn son. Part of this divide is due to Maria choosing every aspect of the couple's lives, including the baby's name, without care or consultation with her partner. But Maria attempts to relinquish control of one thing for Jesus to choose, which is the coffee table for their new apartment. While they argue over the gaudiness of Jesus's choice, the salesman promises the table will bring them happiness. However, the purchase of the coffee table completely changes the trajectory of their lives forever. And everything that I've just said is the first 20 minutes of the movie. And half of it happens before the opening credits. The spoiler that people should stay away from if they want to like fully experience this film, it happens 20 minutes into the film, which makes talking about the entire rest of the movie very difficult because after that 20 minutes, the entire rest of the movie is focused on the fact that the spoiler happened. Do you see where I'm coming from? It makes it so hard to try and talk about this without literally telling you guys what happens. I feel like I need to let you guys in at least a little bit on what happens to change Maria and Jesus's lives. And I feel like even if I try my very best at getting this review across without literally saying the spoiler, I feel like even the way I could tiptoe around it, like with the content warning, even the way I tiptoe around it could spoil it. Like, you could probably just guess what happens from my attempts of tiptoeing around what happens. So here is your final warning. If you would like to watch The Coffee Table without being spoiled of the main thing of why people watch this movie, this is your final warning. I'm about to say it, not in great detail, but I need to mention that it happens. It is prominent to the narrative. 3, 2, 1. The baby dies. Now again, I'm not saying how the baby dies, and knowing that is important to the narrative and what this film is doing, and some of the things that I'll have to discuss later on in the review. And as you can probably tell from maybe my thumbnail and title, I'm not super duper crazy about this movie, as my mom predicted. So I am going to start by talking about the things that I didn't like, just to go ahead and rip off the band-aid, so to speak. But before I do that, before I give The Coffee Table some criticism, I do want to stress that I really like the story itself. I think the narrative itself is very cool, it's interesting, it's different, and I like the directions that they go with it throughout the film. It's sort of simple and yet incredibly gruesome, and I think the fact that it's simple but gruesome works very well in its favor. And I do have a few other good things to say about the movie, which I will finish on in order to finish on a, good note. But I do feel like maybe some of my criticisms that I have over it, some maybe will find it to be harsh. Understandable. Listen, okay, this is me just trying to save myself because of how many people are in love with this movie and how many people that I have seen online call it a masterpiece. I'm trying to save myself, okay? It's crazy. There are so many people that call this movie a masterpiece, and while I liked it, I definitely don't feel like it's a masterpiece. So yeah, let's rip the band-aid off right now. Okay, so I'm gonna come in hot and heavy. How mad would some of y'all be if I said that there were some aspects of the coffee table that gave me the same vibe as a Serbian film? How mad would you be? Honest. I would not 100% compare the coffee table to a Serbian film. That's a little bit ridiculous. That's too far. But there were just like certain aspects of it that made me feel like I was watching a film made by the same director. And a lot of this is just the tone of the movie. I don't know how else to explain it other than there was just something about the tone of the film that was very reminiscent of watching a Serbian film. To the point, like I said, to the point that it felt like maybe it's by the same director, which it's not. It's not, right? It's not. And I think part of this tone is because it's being very overly dramatic and overly serious concerning subjects that are very edgy and shocking and morbid or even taboo. It's being, that could be part of it. I don't know. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of the tone that just makes me think of a Serbian film. From the camera filter, to the music, to the acting, to some moments in the script. I don't know why, but the design of the coffee table itself. No rhyme or reason why it makes me think of a Serbian film, but the design of the coffee table itself makes me think a Serbian film. I don't know. Tonally, it made me feel like I was watching a Serbian film, which obviously leaves an immediately bad taste in my mouth because some of it feels like it's there just to be edgy and shocking. And yes, I'm going to be talking about Ruth. Ruth, if you haven't seen it and don't care about spoilers, or if you have seen it and you don't remember, is the little girl who is in love with Jesus and says some very explicit things towards him and is trying to make him seem like a pet. I feel like the entirety of Ruth's existence in this film is to just have a secondary shocking thing going on. A dead baby is not enough. It's not enough. We have to go the extra mile and have a child constantly talking about how badly she wants to fuck an adult.
Solo quiero que digas que estás enamorado de mí. María ya no te pone nada. Lo que en verdad te gustaría es empezar de nuevo, estar conmigo y follarme a todas horas. Reconócelo.
¿Pero qué dices?
And it's for no reason. It's for no reason, okay? It seems like Ruth is just there for shock value. All she does is create shock value for no reason. What purpose is she serving? Genuinely, what purpose is Ruth actually serving? Because I can hear the argument, oh, Ruth is meant to be there as added pressure or tension between the relationship of the couple. Sure, she could be that if they actually used her that way, but they don't. And not only that, even if they did fully use her that way, is that something that's really needed? It feels like there's already so much tension between the couple. Do we really need this extra factor that's doing nothing? Ruth literally does nothing, okay? She is a very, very, very small part of this story. She shows up twice talking to Jesus, and then once at the very literal end, when she could have some importance in the narrative, or when she could start to put pressure on the relationship between Maria and Jesus. But here's the thing, is the same exact moment that Ruth finally becomes an issue in the couple's lives, it is immediately pushed to the side because the dead baby gets revealed. So then what is Ruth's purpose when her purpose is not very fully fleshed out in the movie? We get 2 scenes of her telling Jesus how bad she wants to have sex with him, and then like 1 moment where she lies to Maria and says that they kissed, and it doesn't go anywhere because the dead baby is revealed. Do you get what? Are you following? Ruth trying to stir the pot in the relationship it's not even something that's stirring the pot until the very end. And the moment that the pot begins to stir, it stops because dead baby, thus making Ruth completely pointless. She's literally just there for shock value. Like, they don't give, if they want Ruth to be like a controversial part of the narrative that creates more tension between the couple, they need to warrant more time towards her and like maybe make her interact with Maria more and not just Jesus. I don't, it's just, Ruth is there and then she immediately goes away. Like, nothing actually comes from Ruth. All that comes from her is shock value. Maybe I'm just crazy, but I do feel like having a child character whose entire existence is just talking about how much they want to fuck an adult. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's giving a Serbian film. That's giving like edgy for edgy's sake, right? Also, I feel like the very end of The Coffee Table, it reminded me of the very literal end of a Serbian film. Not the actions of like, you know, but I mean the very literal ending after the crazy stuff is past and the family is back at home lying in bed together. The Coffee Table has like the same exact ending, and I just find it extremely cheap. I just find it cheap. I hated the ending. I hated the ending because it's just like, it's such like an easy out to end your narrative. And I feel the same way with the Serbian film. Like, it's just an easy out. It's a cheap, easy out, whatever. So yeah, I feel like there are actually, now that I'm sitting here talking about it, there's actually quite a few things that just, even though it's not as extreme as a Serbian film, there are quite a few things tonally and within the content that definitely are giving me a Serbian film vibes. Other than that, I wouldn't even say like the fact that some of The Coffee Table had the same tone as a Serbian film. I wouldn't even say that that's my main complaint of the movie. My main complaint, my main issue that I have with The Coffee Table is its pacing. The pacing of this movie is horrendous. It is just so, it's very incredibly slow and it's very drawn out. Like, some of these scenes do not need as much time as what's given to them. I think especially in the second half of the film, like, once the brother arrives, I am asleep. I noticed it on my second watch. Like, that is the moment when I start to fall asleep and forget what the movie's even supposed to be about. I did note that at one point, and this was on my first watch, by the way, I felt like this on my first watch, there was a moment, and it's of course after the brother shows up, I think that's when it really starts to go downhill with the pacing. I forgot that this movie's supposed to be about a dead baby. That is just how slow and drawn out this film is. It got so slow that I forgot the movie is about a dead baby. There are just like, there's so many overly dramatic, drawn out scenes that I guess are supposed to convey Jesus's mental state. And like, here's the thing, I'm fine with the overly dramatic, drawn out scene of a character being traumatized and like trying to do a task while under this immense trauma. I get it. I understand why scenes like this are used within psychological horror. The issue is that The Coffee Table uses it so often. It happens too much. They do it too much. Like, once or twice is good. It felt like it was happening almost like every other scene. That's how it felt, at least. And usually, you know, I don't typically note anything about music when I review a movie, unless it is a musical like Repo the Genetic Opera. There is not usually a reason for me to note on the music, but with The Coffee Table, I actually started to get extremely annoyed by the music. And it's because of these overly dramatic, drawn out moments, dude. This is when we hear most of the music. And I was getting so annoyed by the overly dramatic vocal choir background music that happened during these scenes of like extensive drama. Dude, I get it. It's traumatic. I get it. I get it. Can you please show us something else in the movie? Oh my god. Like, some of these scenes, yeah, they happen in the first half, but I don't know what it is about the second half. I do not know what it is about the second half of the film, but it had me begging for the movie to just get on with it. Get on with it, dude. Oh my god. Oh, it gets so monotonous. That second half, I want it to end so bad. Please finish the movie. Some of you guys know that I will often skim the reviews on IMDb because I'm an IMDb baddie, not Letterboxd. Sometimes I'll skim the reviews that are on IMDb after watching something just to see like a general consensus of what some other people thought about it. And listen, for this one, for The Coffee Table, I had to dig through so many reviews that just called this movie a masterpiece. I had to dig for somebody to give like an honest review. But once I did start to find some more people who were kind of like me, the one thing that I saw come up over and over and over that I actually feel like I agree with, and I didn't even think about until I saw these reviews, is that The Coffee Table would have been better as a short film, not a full feature. I think a lot of the reasoning for these overly dramatic, drawn out sequences that happen several times in the movie, to me, it feels like these are drawn out just to be filler to make the movie longer. At least that's how it felt to me when I was watching it. So I personally do believe if this movie was actually shorter and used its time more wisely, I would actually like it a whole lot more. I wouldn't feel like I was sitting here wasting my time with how fucking slow it is, how much it just doesn't want to get to the point. And I think this is something, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mention the fact again that I have a literature degree. This is something that came up in like when I was in creative writing courses as well. Everybody wants to write a novel, but nobody can just accept the fact that a short story is enough. Not every single story needs to be a novel. You can make something a short story, like get it out within 10 pages, and it's gonna be more effective and more entertaining to read because you're not wasting the audience's time. Not everything needs to be a novel, not everything needs to be a full-length feature film. You can do short stories, you can do short films, and there is literally nothing wrong with that. So many stories probably work better in a short form way than like trying to be an hour and a half to 2 hours long. I mean, just short doesn't equal bad. As an example, last week's movie was only 1 hour. 1 hour long. Technically, some people I don't think would consider that a full-length feature. And guess what? I loved it. I loved it because it came in, it told its story, and it left, and it didn't fucking waste my time. Anyway, that's a little bit of a rant on that. Also, I do theorize that a lot of the novelty or the hype surrounding this film is solely because of the first watch experience. Like, I don't know, especially on my second watch, I really began to question how how much will The Coffee Table hold up as a rewatchable movie? Because after your first watch, you have already gone past the initial shock and the initial mystery that the story has to offer. And now that it's gone on rewatches, I don't know. I just question the rewatchability, because here's the thing too. I don't think it's a film that really has anything hidden in it like some psychological horrors do. To me, I don't know, when I watched it, it felt pretty straightforward and in your face with what it is presenting you with. So even when I rewatched it, I didn't feel like I was picking up any new pieces of information. I was just rewatching the same slow, boring thing happen. I don't know. I'm you know what? I'm curious about that. And I want to ask you guys, the audience. You know, it's been 4 years since this movie came out. If you are somebody who loves this movie when it first came out, I want to know, how do you feel about it now? Like, how have you rewatched it recently? How do you feel about it upon a rewatch? And how do you feel upon a rewatch several years after it first released? In your opinion, do you think that The Coffee Table has still held up over time? Or do you think that it was just the initial first watch experience that was the best? Because that's what I kind of theorize, but where this week is the first time that I've ever seen it, I can't say that for myself. So I feel like it would be better to ask you guys who did watch this when it first came out. What do you think? Do you think it holds up over time? I don't know. I'm just very curious. So please let me know in the comments below. Now, as I said, it is not all bad. I think I just gave the film a whole lot of harsh criticism that I really haven't seen a bunch of other people say, but in my opinion, it's all true. I don't care. It's harsh, maybe, but I feel like it's true. Nevertheless, I do still have some things that I like about this movie. And listen, if I was ever at a furniture store or like a garage sale and I saw somebody have some kind of gaudy coffee table that was somewhat similar to the coffee table in this movie, yeah, I'm gonna fucking buy it. But here's the thing, I feel like I would have bought a coffee table like this anyway before watching this movie, because this style of coffee table reminds me of A Clockwork Orange and the furniture in the milk bar in a Clockwork Orange. So would I really be getting a gaudy coffee table because of a reference of this movie when I probably would have gotten one like that anyway just because of A Clockwork Orange? I don't know, but I do think it's funny that after I watched this, my TikTok started to show me people in the wild finding coffee tables like this at garage sales. And I thought it was fun and cute, all of the references people made in comments of such videos. It's a cute, fun little reference to have. It's like, it's fun. It's fun. I like the coffee table. I'm not a complete hater. I think the referencing and finding coffee tables like this out in public, it's very fun. It feels very community driven in a way. The thing is that I'm just not super in love with the movie. I like it, but I don't feel as passionately about it as some other people do. And as I said, I absolutely do not find this to be a psychological masterpiece, because that title belongs to magic. But it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, and it is definitely not the worst thing I've ever reviewed on the channel. There are quite a few scenes that I actually liked a lot, and I did really like some of the ways that the audience gets insight on Jesus's mental state. Obviously not the super drawn out melodramatic moments, but there are other moments where we get to see Jesus's mental state being displayed in different creative ways that I do like. One of my absolute favorite moments, and it's just like, it's such a small moment too, and it happens very, very later on, like somewhere in the second half of the film. One of my favorite moments is when Jesus is sitting at his dining table, and on the baby monitor, we begin to hear the salesman's spiel for the coffee table from the beginning of the movie coming through the baby monitor.
Cristal tintado en bronce, irrompible, una estructura con imagen de dos bellas damas moderadas en marfil y bañadas en una perfecta imitación de oro.
And even though that's just like such a short little part, that's one of my favorite moments is the salesperson's whole spiel, his whole sales pitch coming through the baby monitor. I really, really liked that. Or also, honestly, oh god, this moment, so there's so many moments that this movie has that are like so awful, but I love how awful they are. And one of these moments is the moment when Maria first comes home after the incident and she doesn't know anything has happened yet, and just like how mean and cocky she is over Jesus's coffee table receiving damage. That whole scene, the entirety, her cockiness, everything, oh my god. It's just like, it's so painful. Like, you know how I was both watches the entire time after Maria comes home? Both watches, I'm just sitting there like, like that. I will so totally admit that is such a good scene. That is such a good scene. It is so painful. And like that scene, there are quite a few other scenes like it where things get very uncomfortable and awkward, but they become very memorable, I think. I mean, like I kind of already mentioned in the synopsis, I do really, really like how gruesome yet simple the narrative is. It is like a very interesting yet morbid idea to explore for a story, and I do love it for that. And despite feeling that many of the scenes are overdrawn out and that it would work better as a short film, I still like the way that this story is told and the directions that are taken to tell the story. And a lot of the times it will make you just sit there and think about what the hell is going on as you're watching it. Most of what you're thinking about though is what the hell is wrong with this guy? Or like, what the hell is he thinking? Like, I don't know. Jesus just like, he keeps digging himself a hole. I'll just put it that way. But if he didn't dig that hole, then we kind of wouldn't have a movie. As I said, my biggest complaint is mostly just how overdrawn a lot of it is, or how slow it is, and how much of it feels like fluff. However, there is one moment of fluff that I actually loved a whole lot. And I'm sure some of you who have seen the movie could probably guess it. Yes, it is when the salesman comes to Jesus's apartment. This scene when the salesman shows up to Jesus's apartment, it was so goofy. And what I appreciated about it is that it didn't hide the fact that it was being a time waster in the movie. It was actually kind of playing into the fact that it's not only wasting the audience's time, but Jesus's time as well. So it is like the one piece of filler that I like, because I can see it actually playing into the fact that it is fluff and filler.
Gracias, adiós.
Por cierto, antes no se lo he dicho, le he traído este vale para que lo rellene y entre en el sorteo de un ventilador.
Que no, es que no me gustan los sorteos.
Este sorteo lo hago yo. Y un cliente como usted, y para compensar lo del tornillito, seguro que le va a tocar.
I cannot lie, I really can't. I do just in general love the salesman in this movie. I think he's by far the best character. He's definitely the funniest character. I think he's the most likable too. I love the salesman. When he shows up to Jesus's apartment, it almost feels like the actor was told to ad-lib anything to make the actor for Jesus linger outside the door instead of just going inside. And I know it probably was not an improv scene, but there is a portion of my heart that wishes this was an improv scene where the salesman was just told, hey, waste his time, keep him outside of the apartment as long as you can, saying anything. And the reason I think this is because the conversation goes from, do you need help assembling the coffee table, to, hey, you're really cute, let's go on a date and get some coffee sometime.
Sí, sí.
¿Quiere que le ayude a montar el tornillito?
No, gracias.
Es importante ajustar bien las piezas. Oiga, podríamos, no sé, salir a cenar, a ir al cine o tomar algo, ¿no? Me ha caído muy bien. No sé,
Like, the salesman becomes so desperate to keep Jesus's attention. I love the salesman so much. And this is the one scene of fluff-filler that I will accept out of the movie because it is goofy and it is owning the fact that it is wasting your time and Jesus's time. It's silly, it's goofy, I enjoyed it. I liked the salesman a lot. Well, I did say that I only had a few good things to say about the coffee table, so overall, I can't help but feel that the coffee table is a little bit overhyped, which I mean, I do generally tend to feel that way about any kind of horror movie that is suddenly up and coming and uses all of the right buzzwords to get people's attention and make them think that it's the craziest, newest, this is the new Exorcist or whatever, right? So I do feel like the coffee table was a little overhyped, but it's so hard for like modern horror to not get overhyped, I guess. But even though I thought it was overhyped, I still also thought that it was good and it did have some good moments in it. But I cannot jump on the bandwagon of people calling this a psychological masterpiece. I am sorry. To each their own, I guess. But I did really, really like the narrative and its gruesome simplicity. But as I said, I think I would enjoy it more, and I think it would also succeed a little bit more in my book if this were a short film rather than a full feature. Because like I said, not every story needs to be a novel, dude. That's not necessary out of every story. And I think if you try to draw something out longer than what it actually needs to be, it actually takes away and makes it worse. So I feel like if this were short, even just 30 minutes shorter, dude, like just cut this down to an hour and I would probably like it a lot better. And also as much as I like some of the elements of this, I think one thing that does just like keep a bad taste in my mouth about the coffee table are just all of the elements that did make me think of a Serbian film. As I said, the tone in general, I don't know what it is about the tone, but the tone of the film in general felt like the same exact tone of a Serbian film. And it especially doesn't help when we have a character like Ruth who is added completely just for shock value. I fucking hate Ruth so much. I didn't know a whole lot about the movie either going into it, except for the one little scene that I was spoiled on. So when I was looking at reviews, I kept seeing like part of the advertising for this film was related to it not being politically correct, and I assume that's Ruth is there so that the audience can clutch onto their pearls. To me, it was something that was just edgy for the sake of being edgy, and for that, it makes me take the whole film a lot less seriously, because again, it's just like, the tone already makes me think of a Serbian film. Ruth makes me think even more of a Serbian film, and the ending makes me think even more. It's just like all of these bad connotations that I'm getting along with the movie, which maybe isn't the movie's fault, but yeah, I think it's unfortunate. So what tier will I be giving the coffee table? I'm going to give it a B tier. In my heart of hearts, I kind of want to put it at a C, but to be fair, like I said, it's not the worst movie I've seen. I may be a little bit disappointed in some of the execution of some stuff. I thought it was boring and very tiring and I wanted to fall asleep, and I forgot that it was even about a dead baby, but I think I would still rather have to sit through a rewatch of this over some of the other stuff that I've had to sit through, because like I said, it wasn't completely bad. It just like, I liked I think what it is I like the story in general, but the execution of it is very meh. And then they like go and throw in extra stuff for pure shock value. It devalues the film as a whole for me because it's making me think of like edgy for edgy's sake Serbian film. Does that make sense? I have said a Serbian film way too much in this review, I feel like. What can you do? I can't help it. I watched it twice. That's all I saw. And with that, I suppose we are done with yet another movie review. Thank you guys so much if you stayed all the way until the very end. Also, thank you so much to my mother for recommending this to me. Happy Mother's Day. I love you, even though I'm like with you right now. I'm sorry that I was not in love with this, but at least you expected me to not be in love with it. I hope I was not too harsh on it. That's the main thing. I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings. I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings that I'm not super crazy about the coffee. I liked some stuff about it. I feel like I don't want to go in too hard because my mom likes it. However, she goes in hard about movies that I like, so maybe I should have gone in harder, mother. Whatever. Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for recommending The Coffee Table. If you like this review, please make sure that you stab that like button. It is a free and easy way to help support this channel. Also, is there a movie that you would like to hear my opinion on? Put it down in the comments below, and maybe you will see it show up in a future video. Also, did you like to hear me ramble about The Coffee Table so much that you would like to hear me ramble about other disturbing cinema, B movies, genuine trash cinema, hidden gems on Tubi, fantasy? This summer we are doing a summer in Tromaville, so stick around for that if you're interested. If you would like to hear me just ramble about movies in general, please consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can be notified every time I make a new upload. Which new uploads are every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on the screen are some of my socials. If you would like some additional STARGUTZZZ content, right here is my live channel, and it is also linked in the description down below. I will not be on live tonight just because, well, as I just said, I'm gonna be with my mom over the entire weekend for Mother's Day, so no live stream tonight, but all of my previous lives are up for you to watch at your own leisure, so if you would like some additional STARGUTZZZ content, it is right there for you. And one final thank you so much to all of you who stayed until the very end. Our time here is precious, and the fact that you have used your time to sit here and listen to me ramble about and low-key hate on The Coffee Table, thank you. It means a lot to me. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and the time spent sitting here watching this video. Just thank you. I guess I will not be seeing you guys live tonight because I am not at my computer, but I will see you in the next video. Until then, please have a great night and stay safe out there.
¿Qué tal? Bueno, voy a preparar la comida, que tu hermano viene en un rato. ¿Me ayudas? ¿O te quedas ahí empanado? Cristal irrompible.